Welcome to Cherry Blossom BL Story, where emotions bloom and stories unfold. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's chapter.
In a city that eats the soft ones first, a boy arrived carrying poetry instead of a weapon. He knocked twice. The man who opened the door had blood under his nails and eyes that said, "Mine." What happens when the monster decides the lamb is worth keeping? This is their story, and it starts now. Chapter 9. Storm Shelter. The sky cracked open without warning. One moment the loft was quiet, lit only by the faint glow of Elias's bedside lamp as he tried to read. The next, thunder rolled so deep it rattled the windows in their frames. Lightning flashed white, hot through the blinds, bleaching the room for a split second before plunging it into darkness. The power died with a soft, final pop. Elias's book slipped from his small hands. He sat frozen on the edge of his bed, heart slamming against his ribs. Another boom, closer this time, shook the building. The sound echoed inside his chest like it had when he was 6, hiding under the kitchen table while his father shouted at the storm outside their little farmhouse. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe right. His delicate body began to shake, small, uncontrollable tremors that started in his hands and spread until his whole frame quivered. He wrapped his arms around his knees, curling tight, trying to make himself smaller, safer. Wide hazel eyes stared into the black, glistening with sudden tears. The dark pressed in too close. Every flash of lightning made him flinch. Every roll of thunder drew a soft, frightened whimper from his throat. He didn't hear Kai come in. The hallway door opened quietly, Kai stepping through like he belonged to the storm itself. Rain dripped from his leather jacket. He'd been outside, checking something he wouldn't explain. He paused when he saw Elias on the bed, curled fetal, trembling, pale face streaked with silent tears. Kai's expression didn't change, but something in his shoulders loosened. He crossed the room without a word, boots leaving faint wet prints on the concrete. Elias didn't look up, couldn't, but he felt the shift in the air when Kai stopped beside him. A heavy blanket, it was draped over his narrow shoulders without preamble. The wool was warm from Kai's body heat. It settled over Elias like an anchor, heavy and grounding. Elias clutched the edges instinctively, pulling it tighter around himself. Kai didn't leave. He sat on the edge of the mattress close enough that their thighs brushed. The bed dipped under his weight. Elias felt the warmth of him immediately, cutting through the chill that had settled in his bones. Another flash thunder so loud it vibrated in Elias's teeth. He flinched hard, a small, broken sound escaping. Kai moved then, slow, careful. One arm slid around Elias's back, pulling him gently sideways until the fragile boy was tucked against his side. Elias didn't resist. He leaned in instinctively, small frame seeking shelter the way a frightened animal seeks warmth. Kai's other arm came around him fully, encircling Elias's slim waist completely. His large hand splayed across the boy's narrow ribs, thumb resting just under the edge of his sweater. Elias fit against him perfectly, head tucking under Kai's chin, cheek pressed to the solid wall of his chest. The steady thud of Kai's heartbeat was louder than the storm. Elias's trembling eased just a little. Kai rested his chin on the top of Elias's head. His voice came low, almost lost in the rain against the windows. "You're safe." Elias swallowed, his small hands fisted in Kai's shirt. I hate storms, always have, since I was little." "I know." Lightning flashed again. Elias whimpered softly, pressing closer. Kai's arm tightened protective, careful not to crush. They stayed like that through the worst of it. Thunder rolling, wind howling, rain lashing the building like it wanted inside. Elias's tears dried slowly on his cheeks. His breathing evened out against Kai's chest. When the storm began to quiet, thunder retreating to distant grumbles, Kai shifted them both. He lay back against the pillows, guiding Elias down with him until the smaller boy was half draped across his body. Elias's head rested over Kai's heart, one slim leg hooked over Kai's thigh. Kai pulled the blanket higher, tucking it around Elias's narrow shoulders, cocooning them both. foreheads touched. Elias tilted his face up, eyes still glassy, lashes clumped with old tears. Kai's gaze was steady, dark, softer than Elias had ever seen it. No words, just the slow lean forward. Their lips met gentle this time, no desperation, no rage, just soft pressure, trembling on Elias's side, careful on Kai's. Elias's mouth parted on a shaky exhale. Kai kissed him deeper, slow, searching, tasting salt and rain and something sweeter underneath. Elias's small hand rose to cup Kai's jaw, fragile fingers tracing the line of stubble. When they parted, Elias's lips were flushed, eyes half-lidded. Kai brushed a thumb across Elias's cheek, wiping away the last trace of tears. "Sleep," he murmured. Elias nodded, small, trusting. He nestled closer, face tucked into the crook of Kai's neck, small frame completely cradled in the larger man's hold. Kai's arm stayed wrapped around his waist, the other hand carded gently through Elias's dark hair, slow and rhythmic. The storm faded to soft patters against the glass. Elias's breathing slowed, deep, even. His body relaxed fully for the first time since he'd arrived in the city, small, fragile, safe. Kai didn't sleep right away. He lay there in the dark, listening to the rain and the soft rhythm of Elias's breath against his throat. Felt the delicate weight of him, narrow shoulders, slim waist, the faint rise and fall of ribs under his palm. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like something worth protecting, something worth keeping. He pressed a kiss to the top of Elias's head, barely there, barely felt. Then he closed his eyes, and for once the shadows didn't feel so heavy. Chapter 10, shadows closing in. The first sign came quietly, too quietly for anyone but Kai to notice. A black sedan idled across the street from the loft for 47 minutes one Tuesday afternoon. No one got out, no one approached. It simply sat there, engine idling low, tinted windows reflecting the gray sky. Kai spotted it from the fire escape while smoking. He didn't react outwardly, just crushed the cigarette under his boot and went back inside, but he knew the second sign was louder. Elias had received another care package from the village 2 days earlier, his mother's careful handwriting on the brown paper, a small box of homemade jam, dried herbs, a knitted scarf in soft blue wool that smelled faintly of lavender and home. Elias had beamed when he opened it, slender fingers tracing the scarf before draping it carefully over the back of the couch like a treasure. He left it there, folded neatly, waiting to wear it on colder nights. Thursday evening, just after dusk, the shot came. It wasn't loud, not like in movies. A single, muffled crack from a suppressed barrel. The window beside the couch exploded inward in a spray of glass shards. The bullet punched through the wooden frame, grazed the edge of the coffee table, and embedded itself in the opposite wall with a dull thunk. The scarf fluttered as though caught in a sudden breeze. Elias had been standing 3 feet away, reaching for his book on the shelf. He flinched so violently his whole body jerked backward. A small, choked cry escaped him, high and frightened. His large hazel eyes went wide, pupils blown black, color drained from his pale face in a single heartbeat, leaving him ghost white. His delicate frame curled inward instinctively, shoulders hunching, arms wrapping tight around his narrow middle, knees buckling until he half fell against the couch. Glass tinkled to the floor around him like brittle rain. Kai was across the room in an instant. He didn't shout, didn't panic. He simply moved, fast, silent, scooping Elias off the floor and pulling him down behind the couch in one fluid motion. Elias's small body trembled violently against him. Shallow, panicked breaths puffed against Kai's throat. Kai pressed one large hand to the back of Elias's head, forcing it down gently but firmly. "Stay low," he murmured, voice calm, almost soft. "Don't move." Elias nodded against Kai's chest, small, frantic jerks. His fingers clutched Kai's shirt so hard the fabric twisted. Tears welled instantly, spilling over dark lashes without a sound. He didn't sob. He just shook, fragile limbs quaking, breath hitching in tiny, terrified gasps. Kai kept one arm locked around Elias's slim waist, holding him flush against his side, while his free hand drew the pistol from the small of his back. He didn't raise it, not yet. He listened, silence outside, no second shot, no footsteps. Just the distant wail of a siren somewhere far off in the city, unrelated probably. Kai waited another full minute, counting heartbeats before easing up. He shifted Elias carefully so the boy's back rested against the couch leg, then rose just enough to peer through the shattered window. The street was empty, the black sedan from earlier was gone. Kai exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled. He turned back to Elias. The boy was still curled tight, knees to chest, arms wrapped around slim legs, pale face buried against his own knees. Glass glittered in his dark hair like cruel stars. A thin cut on his cheek wept a single bead of blood. His wide eyes stared blankly at nothing, tears tracking silently down flushed cheeks. Kai's chest tightened, sharp, unfamiliar pain. He reached out slow, brushed the glass from Elias's hair with careful fingers. Elias flinched at the first touch, then leaned into it, small, instinctive, like a frightened creature seeking safety even from the thing that scared it most. Kai wiped the blood from Elias's cheek with the pad of his thumb. Gentle, almost reverent. "You're okay," he said quietly. "It's just a scratch." Elias's lower lip trembled. They shot at us. "Yeah," Elias's voice cracked, bare whisper. "Because of me." Kai's jaw clenched. "Because of me." He didn't lie, didn't soften it. Elias deserved the truth even if it hurt. Fresh tears spilled. Elias pressed his forehead to his knees again, small body curling tighter. I didn't mean to make trouble. I just wanted to study, to be here." Kai knelt fully now, large frame crowding the space behind the couch. He cupped Elias's face in both hands, thumbs brushing away tears, and tilted it up until their eyes met. "You didn't make trouble," Kai said, voice low and rough. "You just happened to me, and now they know." Elias searched his face, wide, frightened eyes glistening. "What do we do?" Kai didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled Elias forward, gathering the fragile boy against his chest again. Elias went willingly, small hands fisting in Kai's shirt, face tucking into the crook of his neck. Kai's arms came around him fully, one hand cradling the back of Elias's head, the other splayed protectively across his narrow back. "I keep you safe," Kai said against his hair. "That's what we do." Elias nodded, small, shaky. "Okay." But Kai's mind was already moving. He would start following Elias quietly from a distance, campus walks, bus rides, late-night library sessions. He'd shadow every step the boy took outside these walls, not because he didn't trust Elias, because he trusted no one else with him. The protective instinct roared, now fierce, primal, drowning out everything else. The thought of Elias hurt, of that delicate frame crumpled on concrete, wide eyes empty, small hands still, made something inside Kai twist until it bled. He wouldn't let it happen, not while he still breathed. Later, after he'd swept the glass, taped plastic over the broken window, cleaned the cut on Elias's cheek with careful fingers, Kai sat on the couch with Elias curled against his side. The boy had fallen asleep eventually, exhausted, tear-streaked small frame tucked under Kai's arm like he belonged there. Kai didn't move. He stared at the taped window, at the scarf still folded on the couch, untouched now, but safe, at the boy sleeping against him, fragile, innocent, his. And he made a silent promise to the dark. Anyone who tried to take that light from him would bleed for it, slowly, thoroughly, until nothing was left but ash. Chapter 11, Blood and Reverence. The front door opened at 3:20 in the morning, slow, uneven, accompanied by the wet scrape of boots dragging across concrete. Elias had been dozing on the couch, still dressed in yesterday's oversized sweater, knees tucked beneath him like a child waiting for a parent who never came home on time. The sound jolted him upright. His heart lurched before his eyes even focused. Kai filled the doorway like a storm that had already broken. Blood soaked the left side of his black shirt from ribs to hip. It glistened black, red under the hallway bulb. He leaned heavily against the frame, one palm pressed to the wound, the other still clutching a suppressed pistol that dangled loosely from blood-slick fingers. Rainwater dripped from his hair and jacket, mixing with crimson on the floor. Elias was already moving, bare feet silent, breath caught high in his throat. "Kai, don't." The word came out grated, more air than voice. "Just get the kit." Elias didn't argue. He darted to the bathroom cabinet, small hands shaking as he dragged the metal first aid box free. When he returned, Kai had managed to reach the couch. He dropped onto it more than sat, legs splayed, head tipped back against the leather, eyes half closed. The shirt came off in pieces, Kai tearing it away with his teeth and one hand because lifting the arm hurt too much. Underneath, a long, ugly gash carved diagonally across his left side, deep enough that the edges gaped wetly every time he breathed. Knife work, clean, professional, meant to hurt more than kill. Elias knelt between Kai's spread thighs without being told. His own slim frame looked childlike against the sprawl of muscle and ink and blood. The sweater sleeves swallowed his hands almost to the fingertips. Dark hair fell forward, brushing flushed cheeks as he opened the kit with trembling precision. He didn't speak, just worked. Gauze first pressing firmly enough to make Kai hiss through clenched teeth, but not flinching when fresh blood welled against the white pad. Elias's small fingers barely spanned the width of the wound. They moved feather light along the edges, cleaning away grit and drying blood, tracing older scars without meaning to pale ridges and burn marks and older knife kisses that mapped years of violence across Kai's torso. Kai watched him through lowered lashes. The boy's face was pale, lips pressed thin, hazel eyes glassy with unshed tears he refused to let fall. Every so often his breath hitched tiny, terrified sounds he tried to swallow, but his hands never stopped, gentle, methodical, devoted. When the gash was clean and the butterfly strips were holding the worst of it closed, Elias wrapped fresh gauze around Kai's ribs, loop after careful loop. His arms had to stretch wide to reach. The motion pulled the sweater up, exposing the narrow strip of skin above his waistband. He didn't notice, Kai did. Finished, Elias sat back on his heels. He stared at the white bandage for a long heartbeat. Then, without warning, without asking, he leaned forward and pressed the softest, trembling kiss to the very center of it. Kai's stomach clenched. Elias didn't stop. He kissed higher once, twice, over the bruise already purpling beneath Kai's left pectoral, then directly above the steady, hard thud of his heart. Each press of lips was reverent, fragile, almost prayer-like. Tears finally slipped free. One landed warm against Kai's skin. Kai's hand moved before he could think. Long fingers curled around the nape of Elias's neck, not rough, not gentle either, just possessive. He pulled the boy up in one slow drag until Elias was straddling his lap, knees bracketing Kai's hips, small hands braced uncertainly against blood. Streaked chest, their mouths met, deep, unhurried, tasting of copper and salt and rain. Kai kissed like a man claiming something he had already decided belonged to him forever. Elias kissed back like he was drowning, and Kai was the only surface left in the world. They moved without words. Kai stood wound protesting, ignored, and carried Elias to the bedroom the same way he always did. One arm locked under narrow thighs, the other cradling the small of the boy's back. Elias's legs wound loosely around his waist, slender arms looped around Kai's neck, face tucked against the side of his throat. On the bed, Kai laid him down like glass. Clothes came off slowly, Kai's hands careful, despite the tremor of exhaustion and adrenaline crash. He peeled the sweater over Elias's head, paused to kiss the delicate hollow of his throat. Loose pants slid down slim legs, briefs followed. Elias shivered once, naked now, pale skin luminous in the low light, but didn't try to cover himself, just watched Kai with wide, trusting eyes. Kai shed what remained of his own clothes, jeans, boxers, careful not to pull at the fresh bandage. Then he covered Elias completely. Large hands framed narrow waist, Thumbs brushed the sharp jut of hip bones in slow, worshipful strokes. Kai kissed down the fragile column of throat, across collarbones, over the soft rise of chest, every place he could reach without crushing the smaller body beneath him. Elias arched, small, helpless sounds spilling from bitten lips, his fingers tangled in Kai's hair, trembling. When Kai finally pressed inside, slow, careful, mindful of his own injury and Elias's lingering soreness from nights before, the boy gasped against his mouth, legs wrapped loosely around Kai's hips, heels dug into the backs of strong thighs. They moved together unhurried, deep, almost painfully tender. Kai kept his weight braced on forearms so he wouldn't press too hard. One hand stayed locked on Elias's waist, thumb stroking the sensitive skin just above where they joined. The other laced fingers with Elias's smaller hand, pinning it gently beside his head. Elias trembled the whole time, body strung tight, then melting, then tightening again. Soft whimpers turned to broken gasps, tears slipped sideways into his hair, not from pain, from too much feeling all at once. Kai watched his face the entire time, dark eyes burning, jaw locked. When Elias came back bowing, small cry muffled against Kai's shoulder, Kai followed almost immediately, hips stuttering, burying himself as deep as he could and spilling with a low, wrecked groan. They stayed locked together long after. Kai didn't pull out right away. He kissed Elias's damp temple, the corner of his eye, the flushed curve of cheek. Elias's breathing slowed against his throat, small, hiccuping sighs. Eventually Kai eased free, rolled them so Elias lay draped across his uninjured side. He pulled the blanket up, tucking it around narrow shoulders, then wrapped both arms around the fragile frame, possessive, protective. Elias nuzzled closer, face tucked under Kai's jaw. "Is still bleeding?" he whispered, voice raw, sleepy. Kai pressed lips to the top of his head, and not anymore. A small, trembling hand rested over the bandage. "Good," Elias murmured. He fell asleep like that, small, safe, completely held. Kai didn't close his eyes. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the soft rhythm of Elias breathing against his throat, feeling the delicate weight of ribs rising and falling under his palm. Outside, the city kept moving, sirens, rain, people who wanted him dead. Inside these walls, he had something worth more than blood money, something breakable, something his, and anyone who came for it would learn, slowly, painfully, what it cost to try to take light from a man who had already decided to burn the world down to keep it. Chapter 12, Fragile Promises. Morning came in thin, reluctant bands of gray light slipping between the blinds. Elias woke first slowly, the way someone surfaces from deep water. His cheek was pressed to Kai's bare chest. One slim leg had hooked over Kai's thigh in sleep, narrow ankle resting against rougher skin. The sheets were twisted around them both, white cotton streaked with faint traces of dried blood from the night before. Elias's dark hair spilled across Kai's collarbone like spilled ink. His breathing was soft, even, the faint rise and fall of ribs barely disturbing the stillness. Kai was already awake. He hadn't slept much. The gash on his side throbbed in time with his pulse, but that wasn't what kept his eyes open. It was the fragile weight draped across him, the delicate press of Elias's body, small hands curled loosely against his sternum, trusting even in unconsciousness. Kai stared at the ceiling, jaw tight, one arm locked around Elias's narrow waist like he could physically keep the boy from slipping away when the truth finally came. Elias stirred, long lashes fluttered, hazel eyes opened, still sleepy, still soft, then sharpened as memory caught up. He felt the bandage under his palm first, then the steady thud of Kai's heart beneath it. Elias lifted his head slowly, dark waves falling into his face. He didn't speak right away, just looked. Kai met that gaze without flinching. "Stay," he rasped. The word came out rough, scraped raw from lack of sleep and too much smoke. Not a command, closer to a plea. Elias blinked once, slow, deliberate. His small hand rose. Fragile fingers settled against the scarred line of Kai's cheek. thumb brushing the edge of stubble. The touch was light enough to feel like a question. "Tell me," Elias whispered, "everything you can, no more hiding." Kai's throat worked. He exhaled through his nose, long, controlled. Then he spoke, low, flat, like he was reciting facts instead of confessing sins. "I run protection for a family that owns half the docks and most of the warehouses south of the river. Not the polite kind of protection, the kind that ends with bodies in the water when someone forgets to pay." He paused. His free hand came up, covered Elias's smaller one against his cheek. "I collect, I enforce, I make problems disappear. Last night was one of those problems. Guy thought he could skim and walk. He was wrong." Elias listened without moving. His eyes grew wider with every sentence, pupils expanding until the hazel was almost swallowed by black. Color leached from his cheeks, lips parted on shallow, unsteady breaths, but he didn't pull away, didn't recoil. Kai kept going, voice never rising, never softening. "There's blood on my hands that won't wash off. There's people who want me gone, some because of business, some because I've put too many of their friends in the ground. That bullet through the window wasn't random. They know where I live now. They know there's someone here who matters." His fingers tightened around Elias's wrist, not hard, just enough to feel the rapid flutter of pulse beneath fragile skin. "They'll come again, and if they get to you before I can stop them..." He broke off. Elias's eyes shimmered. Tears welled fast, silent, unstoppable. One slipped free, tracked slowly down his flushed cheek, dripped onto Kai's chest. Kai's jaw locked so hard the muscle jumped. "I should have never let you stay," he said, quieter now. "I should have put you on the first bus back to that village the day you showed up with your fucking books and your soft voice. But I didn't, and now you're in it, in me." Elias didn't speak for a long moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, he shifted. He pressed closer instead of pulling away. Slim arms slid around Kai's neck, narrow chest molded to broad ribs, face tucked into the crook of Kai's throat so every exhaled breath ghosted warm against scarred skin. Elias's whole body trembled, small, helpless shivers, but he held on tighter. "Yeah, I'm scared," he admitted against Kai's pulse. The words cracked. "I'm so scared I can't breathe sometimes, but I'm not leaving." Kai's arms came around him fully, careful of the wound, possessive everywhere else. One large hand splayed across the small of Elias's back, the other cradled the nape of his neck, fingers threading into dark hair. "You don't know what you're saying," Kai muttered. "I do." Elias lifted his head just enough to meet Kai's eyes again, wide, wet, unflinching. "I know you kill people. I know there's blood in the kitchen sink and guns under the couch and men outside who want you dead, and I still want to stay." Fresh tears spilled. He didn't wipe them away. "Because when you hold me, when you look at me like I'm something worth keeping, I feel safe, even when everything else is terrifying." Kai stared at him, dark eyes burning, something raw and unguarded flickering behind the usual cold mask. "You're gonna get hurt," he said hoarsely, "because of me, maybe." Elias's voice was barely above a whisper. "But I'd rather be hurt here, with you, than safe somewhere else without you." Silence stretched, thick, heavy, electric. Then Kai moved. He rolled them carefully so Elias lay beneath him, weight braced on forearms, hips settled between slim thighs. He lowered his head until their foreheads touched. Breath mingled in the narrow space between mouths. "I can't promise you clean hands," Kai said. "I can't promise no more blood. I can't even promise I'll come home every night." Elias's small hand rose again, cupped Kai's jaw, thumb tracing the tense line. "Then promise me this," he whispered. "Promise you'll fight to come back, every time, for me." Kai closed his eyes, only for a second. When they opened again, they were steady, dark, dangerous. "I'll burn the whole fucking city down before I let them take you from me," he said, low, certain. "That's my promise." Elias's lips trembled into the smallest, shakiest smile. He leaned up, fragile, trembling, and kissed Kai. Soft at first, tentative tear, salted, then deeper. Kai kissed back like a man sealing a vow, slow, reverent, claiming. When they parted, Elias stayed close, nose brushing Kai's, breath shaky. "Stay with me today," he murmured. "Just today. No leaving, no shadows, just us." Kai nodded once, sharp, decisive. He shifted them again, rolled so Elias was tucked against his uninjured side, head pillowed on Kai's shoulder, slim body curled into the shelter of larger arms. Kai pulled the sheet higher, cocooning them both. Outside the city growled traffic, distant horns, the low hum of a world that wanted blood. Inside the loft it was quiet, just heartbeat against heartbeat, just fragile promises whispered into skin, just two people holding on, terrified, desperate, unwilling to let go. For now, that was enough.
That's all for today on Cherry Blossom BL Story. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this chapter? Did you like it? Or do you think something unexpected is coming? Comment your thoughts below. And subscribe for more stories.